Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast, where we provide you with your weekly diagnosis of everything fantasy football. Whether it's season-long leagues, dynasty, DFS, or sometimes even IDP, we got you covered all year long. Let's do it. Let's get to it. Welcome into the Fantasy Football Diagnostics Podcast. It is Tuesday, December 26th, 2023. I'm your host, Jon Jeune. And of course, I gotta have my guy Greg Pennamon here with me. Greg, how you doing today, man? You're muted, sir.
Yeah, feeling good. Relaxed. Week 16, semifinals week. Semifinals week is definitely a tough week. Leagues didn't go as planned for sure, but got to see some good football. Got to help the people that are in championship week. And hopefully they, got a good Christmas present with the win, on Sunday.
Yeah, and Monday. Yeah, I talked about, being eliminated from all my playoffs last week, except for the four where I had a bye week. One of those we co-managed together. We got bounced pretty quickly. It looked like before Thursday ended, we're like, probably not gonna look good for us.
Yep.
And Saturday came around, we're like, definitely not going to look good for us. But I did end up advancing in my other three semis. So onto the championship we go. It did hurt to see all of my teams that did get bounced in round one perform in round two, when we're not playing. So, it's the game that we play. It is what it is, right? So without further ado, it is our Week 16 recap, and unfortunately, we are not recording live this morning. We did have some technical difficulties, so we are doing a pre-recorded show. So unfortunately, we can't take many of your questions, but we'll do the best that we can, going forward. But we're obviously going to break down the quarterback position, or all the positions, from a Swags and Jags perspective. And starting with the number one quarterback on the week, that would be Joshua Allen, 15-21, 237 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Did add 15 rushing yards on the ground to go along with 2 rushing touchdowns, 24.98 PPR points there. Greg, what'd you make of this performance by Josh Allen in semifinals week?
Yeah, Josh Allen doing what he has to do with his legs, getting those rushing touchdowns, 2 of those things. Been doing a conservative day on the passing, but that's why you have Josh Allen number one all year, because what he's able to do with his legs, and towards the goal line, he's still gonna have opportunity to score touchdowns. So it's been a great season for him for sure, fantasy wise and football wise down the stretch especially.
Yeah, I think we debated about this in the offseason. And I've had plenty of debates about it, but Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen was a conversation. And I always said I'm going to go with Josh Allen, because he does bring an element that maybe Jalen Hurts doesn't bring through the air, where he could, throw for these 300-yard games, 3 multiple touchdowns through the air. But he's also going to have these types of games where he's running for 2 touchdowns in a game, right? So, I jokingly said, I wasn't joking, I was serious. If you could, obviously we know Jalen Hurts has the success, but you couldn't convince me that if you put Josh Allen in that Philadelphia ecosystem where they run the tush push better than anybody, I feel like you would rather have Josh Allen in there than you would have Jalen Hurts, just purely for the fact that Josh Allen's 6'5", 240 pounds, just built differently. But yeah, they could probably run the QB sneaks and tush pushes for touchdowns up the one all day here with Josh Allen.
Yeah, absolutely.
But moving on to the quarterback 2 on the week, man, and oh man, Derek Carr, 27-40, 319 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Did add 2 rushing yards on the ground, 24.96 fantasy points. Greg, you weren't here on the Thursday night preview show, but I was like, look, man, you could play Derek Carr, but every time we say to play Derek Carr, you know what happens. So play him at your own risk. And you were watching the game. Like, and I remember you and I and our other co-manager, we were texting in our group chat, and we're like, "Their car is terrible."
Terrible.
Like,
But those like three splash plays like got him this. Like he had three huge plays, one to Shaheed, one to A.T. Perry, I think it was, and then I think he had another like big play which got him those touchdowns. Because the team was getting pretty much owned all night. It's crazy how he got this output. His best output of the season, fantasy wise.
it's absolutely absurd, man, because he literally like we did not have Derek Carr going, we had Alvin Kamara going, and the way we looked at it was like, I mean, Derek Carr was just not putting the team in position to succeed. He was not putting them extending drives.
Nope.
They were going 3-and-out.
Yep.
Like it was really bad. They couldn't get in the scoring range, like you said. Those three touchdowns. I think the third one went to Juwan Johnson. They all came, from deeper down,
Yeah.
deeper outside the red zone. So it was just kind of like this thing was never going to happen. At least for us, we felt like, and we put all that on the on the shoulders of Derek Carr, because I mean Saints fans were calling in, complaining the next day on like radio shows and podcasts. People were going nuts on Twitter about Derek Carr. So it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think the Saints can move on from Derek Carr very easily, right? I think they've got at least one more year of him.
Sure do.
And it's, call me crazy, but like as crazy as the Jets quarterback situation has been, we forget like they almost signed Derek Carr, and I'm
Yep.
like, I constantly remind myself, well, at least we didn't sign Derek Carr.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And the thing that we wanted him to do, which was perfect for Kamal all year, is check it out to him. He didn't even do that. So, yeah, it's wild. It's wild.
Wild stuff, man. Almost as wild as the elite Joe Flacco finishing as the QB3 in semifinals week. Joe Flacco, 27 of 42, 368 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 1 rushing yard, 24.8 fantasy points. Uh, if you started Joe Flacco and you had to, I mean, like, because you lost a CJ Stroud, or maybe you didn't trust Patrick Mahomes, or whatever it may have been, more power to you, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's been last 3 weeks over 300 yards passing, at least 2 touchdowns in all those games. So he definitely has been on a roll a little bit these last since coming in, honestly, as the Browns starting quarterback. So yeah, you love to see it for sure. I mean, he's got the Jets next weeks, but I mean, I don't see how you can like ride this hot hand right now for at least the final week if you're in the position. He got you here, so like why not?
I hear you. I hear you. The Jets have literally been a buzzsaw to every quarterback that they faced. Might
Except
be
Jacoby
very,
Brissett, yo.
yeah. No, Jacoby Brissett did well in that, that chunk of a quarter and a half that he got to play. Um, but I just I don't see how you
Crazy.
could do it. That game is on Thursday night, so you have a quick
It is.
decision to make if you do decide to go that route. But Joe Flacco, man, absolutely been balling, helping people lead people to chips. I mean, I have a super flex team that I don't want to, it brings me pain to talk about, but basically we would be in the finals right now if just one poor lineup decision didn't, if I had just made one lineup decision, we'd be in the finals right now. So, and that team has Joe Flacco on it, who could have essentially saved my team. So, um, rounding out these top 12s, man, Justin Fields coming in at 4. That's my quarterback start of the week. Jordan Love coming in at 5. Russell Wilson, 6. Jalen Hurts coming in at 7. Lamar Jackson coming in at 8. Bryce Young, look at that, coming in at the
Hmm.
QB 9. Matthew Stafford, 10. Kyler Murray, 11. And Mason Rudolph coming in as that QB 12. Greg, any of these top 12 performances stuck out to you, or just any performances in general that stuck out to you in a positive manner?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Anytime you see Bryce Young in here, that's good. Maybe he can get some momentum at the end of the season that can help him for next year. Lamar doing what he's got to do, getting that top 12 performance against the Niners, kind of winning him that MVP, I think, for the season in real football. And yeah, it was a solid week. Matthew Stafford again getting in there. And Baker still had a really solid day. Love to see what he's done for Tampa all season, man. He's really balled out.
Yeah, Baker's absolutely been balling. Bryce Young, like you said, anytime he's in here, this is, I think, the only time he's been in here all year. You definitely are happy to see that because we do want to see Bryce Young be successful, right? The more young quarterbacks, the more good young quarterbacks there are in the NFL, the better the NFL is overall, right? So it's been nice to see. It was nice to see Bryce Young come back with a performance like this. Easton Stick, if you started him, I know some people started him in super flex leagues. For him to be able, I mean, finishes the QB 16, but still put up 17 points. That's pretty good. I know a lot of people started Nick Mullins, more than I would have imagined started Nick Mullins, but still 16 and a half PP, or basically 16 and a half points,
Yeah,
just within Patrick Mahomes. So moving on, we speak of Patrick Mahomes here. Got to talk about these Jags. Patrick Mahomes,
Trevor
again,
Lawrence.
yeah, Trevor Lawrence, who started the week, and he did get injured,
Yeah,
but it was bad before the
yeah.
injury.
They were down like 30-0 almost. I feel like it was like
At
20-30
halftime,
nothing. Yeah, yeah,
they were down
yeah,
30-0 at halftime.
yeah. Brutal.
Tommy DeVito, who I threw out as a potential stream, he got benched at halftime. Um, yeah, that's going to be an interesting story. Tua Tagovailoa, Brock Purdy, 4 interceptions in his start against the Baltimore Ravens, so not great. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know if anybody went there, but Sam Howell definitely did not help you if you
Oh
played
no,
him at all.
no.
Anybody else that you want to shout out as a Jag, Greg?
No. Yeah,
Jake
no.
Browning.
Yeah, I know people definitely started Jake Browning. People
I
definitely
mean,
started
he
Jake
was my
Browning.
he was my stream of the week for sure.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, passing totals. The yardage was there. Just threw 3 interceptions.
Sure
So
people had some Garner Minshew too. Yeah,
yep,
yeah.
yep. So overall, up and down week from the quarterbacks. But now we move on to the running back position and the number one running back on the week with like a season's worth of production in here, man. Brees Hall. I did not realize the reception total. 20 carries for 95 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 16 targets for 12 receptions and 96 receiving yards,
We like
43 43.1 PPR points on the day. Yeah, I'm speechless. I saw, obviously I watched the game. I know what he finished with from, like, I know he was like he has 2 games of like 95 rushing yards and 95 receiving yards. Um which ties like a few other players. Walter Payton, I think, has the most such games with 3 in his career. Um, Brees Hall just played in his like 17th game. Uh, that's actually inaccurate, but but I did not realize that he had 12 receptions in this game or the 16 targets.
yeah, combination of Brees Hall being Brees Hall and how bad Washington's defense has been this season. That they were able to, I think Washington was a big possible streaming defense this week, and yeah, they just lit him up. So Brees Hall was able to do what he had to do. Took advantage of a good matchup, and yeah, he's a beast. Hopefully, he can get this Jets offense to just move the ball. Brees Hall is going to be it's RB1 all season next year.
Yeah, I mean, with Aaron Rodgers, a healthy Aaron Rodgers, the Brees Hall should be a bona fide RB1, like
Yeah,
no question about it.
no question.
It was really nice to see them because a lot of those weren't like dump offs; they were like designed.
Hmm.
Like, we're getting Brees Hall in space, and we're gonna get him the ball now, get a few blockers in front of him, and see what happens. And it's like, where has this been all year? Like,
Hmm.
why do we wait until like we play Washington in December in a game that doesn't matter? It's outside of like draft positioning to do something like this. So that
Hmm.
was very, very upsetting. However, you know, Washington was in this game as a 3-point underdog, and if you recall, I said, hey, you know what? These teams are both equally bad. I don't ask, don't call me crazy. Don't know how it's possible, but I see Washington covering 3 and the Jets winning this game.
Here it is, 2-point win. There you
2-point
go.
win. But yeah, man, it was great to see him close it out. Unfortunately, most of my Brees Hall teams have been eliminated. So,
Yeah.
Coming up to the RB2, man, just, finishing the season how we kind of started it. Christian McCaffrey, 14 for 103, 1 touchdown on the ground, 6 receptions for 28 yards on 10 targets through the air, 25.1 PPR points. And honestly, the happiest I was seeing Christian McCaffrey score that touchdown. Not for my fantasy teams, not for any bet I had, but for the one dude who had that $5 parlay to win
450,
$489,000. Like, that is why we create those crazy parlays, right? To hit on something like that. And my man did it. So congrats to him.
Yeah.
But I literally was like, when DeAndre Swift went down at the 1, I was like, yo, let's get this man his DeAndre Swift touchdown because he needed a Swift touchdown. And he almost didn't get it.
Yeah,
Swift,
almost didn't get it.
He almost didn't because he got down at the 1, and there was another one where his knee hit the turf.
Yep.
And then he finally got in, and I was happy just for this guy. So yeah, man. Merry Christmas to you guy, to that guy there. But hopefully, inspiring one of us to hit on a ticket like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I know he's planning to pay off some student loans, invest. So I heard some great things in his plan. So definitely happy for him.
Yeah, man. But on the performance of CMC, what did you think about that, Greg?
Yeah, this is usual. His teams play badly. His teams play well. It doesn't matter. McCaffrey has been on bad teams for like majority of his career. He knows what to do and put out a good performance in fantasy.
It's crazy because like if you just took his fantasy points and you just plotted them like from week to week, like you probably couldn't tell what was a win or a loss. Like you'd have a hard time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
And you could not say that about most running backs.
Nope.
Like Derrick Henry, for example, who, by the way, I'm sorry to everyone who benched him based on my recommendation. These things happen, but was really, really not anticipating a game like that. But the RB3 on the week, Jahmyr Gibbs, back-to-back weeks as the RB3, 15 carries, 80 rushing yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 20 receiving yards. Did lose a fumble, but 24 PPR points on the day. Greg, he also sent a man to the shadow realm. What did you think of this performance here by Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, I think that's what made me send out the text about he's just a joy to watch. He just makes someone fall. I feel like every game. It's crazy to think, if he definitely did this all over again, that Bijan hype would be all on Jahmyr Gibbs right now. He'd be definitely he was going number 3, number 4 in a lot of drafts overall. It'd be Gibbs for sure because this man, his late season value for what he's done, just explosive. He's going to get the ball, so it's been great for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah, he's been everything that you could want from essentially a guy that was drafted as like an RB2, RB3.
Yeah,
he's been everything that you would have wanted. I mean, PPR points per game, he's the running back 5 right now.
Yeah, since that Baltimore game, he like literally took off. Like it's crazy.
And don't look now, 872 rushing yards, 316 receiving yards. If I just go check really quickly, you know what I'm looking up, Greg. I think you know what I'm looking up.
Is he some rookie record going on here?
No rookie record. He's. I was gonna say I was looking to see what those stats looked like comped to Alvin Kamara. But Alvin Kamara was utilized much more as a receiver. Remember when Alvin Kamara had like
81 receptions?
81 receptions every year.
Every year. Insane.
Oh man, that's how long we've been doing this. That's kind of crazy. Um, yeah, Jahmyr Gibbs not on pace for the 81 receptions, only on pace for 51. But Kamara did have 800 receiving yards as a rookie and 728 rushing yards. So about 1,500 yards from scrimmage, and Jahmyr Gibbs is here with about 1,100. So still one more game to go, or two more
Hmm.
games to go rather. But uh, would be tough to get 800 or 500 more receiving yards over these next two games. But definitely love to see this performance by Jahmyr Gibbs. Rounding out these top 12s here and these swag performances, the James Conner coming in as the RB4, Derrick Henry coming in as the RB5, Zeke Elliott 6, Rashad White 7, Chris Rodriguez Jr. 8, Saquon Barkley 9, Bijan Robinson coming in at 10, Khalil Herbert coming in at 11, and Kyron Williams coming in as the RB12. Um, Greg, any of these performances stuck out to you?
Always got to shout out Rashad White, man. Been probably one of the most consistent running backs in fantasy. Just every week, just doing it for managers. Love to see Bijan with the bounce back. Kind of slightly expected it. It seems like off the weeks he doesn't get the ball, he explodes. And yeah, Khalil Herbert definitely was a surprise, but Foreman having that late scratch and not playing because of a personal issue definitely opened up some opportunity for Herbert to get the ball. So that's good for him there.
Yeah, and then your running back start of the week, DeAndre Swift. We're gonna shout him out, man. Came in as the RB
Got in the
14,
end zone. I'll take
got in the
that.
end zone. I mean, it was his by far his best game in
Yeah,
weeks.
yeah.
Like best game in weeks, 20 carries, 92 yards. Like you said, got in the end zone. Does not get utilized in the passing game whatsoever. But honestly, I forget, and maybe this is because I've like all of my love has been on the on the Jahmyr Gibbs side right lately. But I forget how much I used to love DeAndre Swift.
Hmm.
Uh, when he made that run yesterday, where he cut across the field, got that first down. I was like, man, Swift is special, man. He really is.
Hmm.
Uh, I think that last year in Detroit the last 2 years in Detroit left a lot of, left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. But he was a, really good value coming into this season, for those that were able to draft him when they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, Dave Montgomery, continuing to be a solid RB2 here. Zamir White, though.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a game. 22 carries, a buck 45, no touchdowns, no not even a reception, just straight 14 and a half PPR points of just running the ball down the Kansas City Chiefs throat. I mean, like, what could you say about that? I mean, this guy was just killing the Chiefs, man. What do you think of his performance?
Yeah, I love it here. I love that he's last 2 weeks. Josh Jacobs has been out, and he literally slid in, no warm up time, no nothing. Like he came in and helped the fantasy managers get great performances. So that was excellent for Zamir White. Excellent for that he's able to run a really good game. And yeah, you have confidence now going into next week if Josh Jacobs is going to be out again.
Yeah, and Antonio Pierce, man, just lying to the people. Said if he was a betting man, I mean, some of us make bad bets, and maybe he made a bad bet.
Yo, he's
Because
about to be a real head coach, so he's got a official head coach, so he's got to lean into that.
hey, man, I
He's
hope
got
so. Because
to,
he's been doing a great job with the Raiders, man. They
yeah,
show
give this
heart,
man the
they
job now,
fight.
man. Give this man the job now, man.
Yeah, we definitely hoping that that's what happens.
Yeah.
Um, Trying to think, Chris Rodriguez, shout out to him.
Hmm.
But other than that, got a whole lot of Jags, man.
Oh
Alvin
man,
Kamara, Joe Mixon, Jerome
man.
Ford,
Yeah,
Travis Etienne, James Cook. That
yeah,
one, that one hurts
yeah.
because he basically got people here.
Yep,
Like these last like 3-4 weeks, like he got you here.
yep. He was the hottest
And
running back in fantasy. Oh,
so that's just unfortunate. Tony Pollard. Um,
oh. Brutal. Travis
Kenneth
Etienne too.
Walker.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
Travis
Travis
Etienne.
Etienne. Yep.
Oh,
Kenneth Walker, that was not a good one.
yeah.
And the matchup was nice too. So it was just unfortunate. Devon A. Chan and Ty Chandler.
Yeah. Some big time names. Big time
Yeah.
names. Yeah.
I mean,
So
all these names outside of like maybe Jerome Ford is probably the smallest name in here.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh man. But moving on to these wide receiver swags, man. The number one wide receiver on the week, Amari Cooper. 15 targets, 11 receptions, 265 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns. I believe he is just one of three players to have 200 yards receiving with a 200-yard receiving game with three different teams.
Wow. Impressive.
The other players, I think it was T.O. was one of them, and I'll get you the other one. But Greg, your thoughts and performance here by Amari Cooper?
Yeah, balled out. He's been pretty solid all year, especially, given the situation with, some iffy quarterback play in the beginning. But Joe Flacco definitely opened up some things for him and opened up some things for David and Njoku too as well. So love to see that this passing offense is getting something, some consistency. I feel like, it's been a struggle all the way back to the Baker days, but Amari Cooper definitely, doing a huge performance here in semifinal week against Houston. And yeah, got the Jets next week, so it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great performance by Amari Cooper. Broke a franchise record for most receiving yards in a single game. Can you guess who held that record, Greg, for the Cleveland Browns?
Oh, oh man, for Cleveland,
Yeah,
yeah, nah,
it
yeah.
doesn't go as far back as you think.
Oh,
Probably
really?
10 years ago.
10 years ago? Oh no, no, I wasn't paying attention to
You
Cleveland.
associate this player with me.
uh, associate play with you? Oh man, that's wild. Uh, is it? I mean, so was it a Jet? Did he play for the Jets at some point?
Never. Did play for the Patriots though, for like a hot second.
Chad? Not Chad. I'm bugging. No, I'm blanking right now. I don't know why. That's
Josh
crazy.
Gordon.
Wow. 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 Crazy, yo. Crazy.
But he also joins T.O. as the only receiver. I misspoke. The only receiver with 200 receiving yards for three different franchises.
Yeah, that's impressive. Shows like longevity in a career and, yeah, doing it with different teams, different quarterbacks. That's definitely impressive.
Yeah, Amari Cooper did it with not just the Raiders, but also the Cowboys as well as the Cleveland Browns. So, um, yeah, man, it was a fantastic performance there by Amari Cooper, who has been consistent, which has been one of my issues with Amari Cooper going back to his Raiders and or his Cowboys days specifically. But yeah, he's been consistent, so that's been great. Love to see that there. The wide receiver two on the week, man who has not been consistent. Um, I'm really curious to know how many people started him this week. But George Pickens, 6 targets, 4 receptions, 195 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, 35.5 PPR points. Greg, you have this look on your face. I'm itching to know what's on your mind.
Oh, I mean, that's definitely was something he was doing like early in the season sometimes, but he definitely couldn't do this all year, especially for my fantasy team. And the moment now he gets this, I thought, Mike Tomlin was going to bench him. It seems like, after his comments, him also not blocking, showing a little effort. But yeah, this he has definitely had this potential all year, big play activity. He only got 4 receptions, did this literally on 4 receptions, which is wild. Um, so yeah, just wish could have got some consistency throughout the year. Maybe we can get that next year. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's crazy, man. It's man,
You
week
sound
16 now.
you sound like a scorned George Pickens
Yeah,
manager.
man.
um, yeah, this one was interesting just purely off the fact that you watch a game like this that he put up on Saturday, and I can't help but think about what Ryan Clark said that got him a lot of heat when he said that George Pickens is more
Was
talented than Justin Jefferson.
back early in the season when I
And
think yeah
everyone was
yeah
going crazy that he said that. And I was like, I don't think he's wrong, right? Like
yeah
obviously every receiver that's got to this level has had to work hard, but some of them work harder than others, right? And Justin Jefferson, like, yeah, he's athletic, he has body control, he has all that, but just from like a physical, like God-given ability, like George Pickens has that in leaps and bounds,
hmm
and I think that's the frustration with George Pickens is that he could be so much better than he is
yeah
if he gave his effort like all the time,
yeah
and you look at a game like this, and this is like the prime example of what Ryan Clark was talking about. Like 190, like he had almost 200 yards on 4 catches. Like this, almost average 50 yards a catch. Like it's absurd.
yeah yeah. That was similar to like that Randy Moss Thanksgiving line. It's pretty much like yeah, 3 catches, like one some bucks 60 or something like that, and yeah, 2 touchdowns. So yeah, amazing.
Yeah, definitely great stuff. My favorite part of that game was not had nothing to do with George Pickens though. It was Jalen Warren uh, dishing out like an amazing block to get
Yep.
fellow teammate and a wide receiver, Calvin Austin, into the end zone. And it was just literally a week after all of this other stuff was going down between like the back and forth in the media where George Pickens says he didn't want to block for Jalen Warren because he didn't want to get hurt. And Jalen Warren's like, well, I would have blocked for him, but I guess we just play the game differently. And Jalen Warren literally standing on business
Yep.
and showing that he put his money where his mouth is and is like, nah, I'm going block and get
Yeah.
my guy in the end zone.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But the wide receiver 3 on the week, man, like, what more can you say about this man,
Hey
bro?
man, that's what he is, man. I mean, everyone was scared when Cooper was coming back, and no, everyone was scared. That's crazy. No need to fear, man.
Nope, not me, man. Because Puka Nakua, 11 targets, 9 receptions, 164 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Also, two rush attempts for 16 rushing yards, 33 PPR points. You said a lot of people were scared, but we were not scared on this show. We talked about it. Like Puka Nakua is not. You could not put him back in the box. Like there was no
Yeah,
putting him back in the box. Had a 20 target game, his first NFL start. Like that was not gonna just disappear. He was going to continue to be a big part of this offense. And I think the conversation we have to have, right, is where do you draft these guys next year relative to one another, Puka Nakua and Cooper Kupp? Because I feel like we're going to end up in a situation like we did with previous Rams receiving groups, where you look at Puka Nakua, you look at Cooper Kupp. At the end of the year, they might have very similar stat lines, but which guy do you want week to week?
oh, like the Cooper Robert Wood days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, for Puka case, he's literally what he's a rookie. He's only 20, what 22, 23 maybe.
I think he's an older rookie, but yeah, he's just a rookie.
Yeah, yeah. Another year on Cooper Cup's belt, another year of potential injuries that Cooper's faced this year. A significant amount of them hamstring, dinged up a lot this year. So I think I probably want to go with the more fresher legs, the more kind of player that's gonna be kind of leading this team for hopefully years to come.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel as well. Puka Nakua is 22, so not as old as maybe I initially thought, but he is, like you mentioned, younger, fresher legs. I am a little concerned because he has been banged up a lot. Like,
Yeah, yeah. He
and
takes a lot of big hits.
he does take a lot of hits. Like he plays receiver almost like a running back,
Yeah,
where every time he even the plays he doesn't catch the ball, he's getting hit. Like his body, he has like no regard for his body. Similar in like the Mike Williams fashion, where he's just like, I'm gonna go up and get this ball, and like whatever happens to me on the way down, like not as important as catching this football. So, you definitely look at it from a perspective of like how, um, through that lens there. But I really am very much into Puka, for the upcoming
Yes.
season. I just it's been, and maybe I'm somewhat biased in the sense of like I had Puka, I've had Puka in a lot of my leagues because I was very aggressive in acquiring him. I'm also trying to see what the splits look like from the time that Cup came back to now. And
I
Puka,
from just thinking, I think Puka still outperformed Cooper in the games they played together too.
so targets, Puka is 145 to Cup's 138, so he's out targeting him. Receptions, Puka 88 to 85. And that goes to Puka's advantage.
Mm.
And then yards, or receiving yards, Puka's at 1,277, while Cup is at 1,097. So 75 receiving yards versus about 64 and a half. And then touchdowns, they both have 6 in that span. So uh, advantage in, again, small sample size. I mean, it's a larger sample size, but small sample size in the fact that it's only been 1 year that they've played together, or 11 games that they've played together. But advantage goes to Puka Nakua's
Yeah.
thus far.
Hopefully, I mean, also Stafford kind of has to be part of this. Kind of, hopefully, he can give us a couple more years, maybe. So, yeah,
I just need one. I just need
yeah,
one.
yeah.
I just need one more
I
year.
know, I
And
know.
then, the hope is that Sean McVay and Co can find, somebody to fill in.
Yeah,
Don't know what Stetson Bennett's situation is. I think he was in, rehab or dealing with some personal stuff. But
mm.
if they could find a quarterback of the future, I don't know. What if they had just kept Baker Mayfield?
I mean, Baker was ready to play now. I mean,
Yeah, no,
yeah,
100%. And
yeah,
and I say that, but at the same time, there's probably like a other bunch of other things that had to happen, right? Like Stafford had to be ready to retire. They had to be able to
yeah.
like move Stafford's money off the books, and they would have had to take Baker and all this other stuff. But yeah, just interesting team building type stuff. But rounding out these top 12 receivers, and what was a very good wide receiver week.
Mm.
Like you got to go down to the wide receiver 16 to get someone who didn't score 20 PPR points.
Crazy.
Um,
That's
the wide
crazy.
receiver 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. 5, DJ Shark. 6, Mike Evans. 7, Justin Jefferson. 8, Calvin Ridley. 9, CeeDee Lamb. 10, T. Higgins. 11, Greg's wide receiver star of the week, Chris Olave. And 12,
There he
Gabe
is.
Davis. Greg, any of these top 12 performances stuck out to you, or just performances stuck out to you positively at all?
Mainly T. Higgins. I'm very happy that, especially for it's been a rough year, a rough year for managers out there. He's been banged up a lot uh throughout the season. But when he's there, when he's got an opportunity, last 2 weeks especially for playoffs time, he's come through big time for people, getting season high in targets to 8 targets. Well, second highest performance of the season. And just putting up big time numbers for the managers out there.
Yeah, definitely. And your boy Calvin Ridley, 2 touchdowns. Um,
Crazy. At least he
which
played, well, and the rest of his team played badly, but at least he, came through. But yeah,
which of these wide receivers boils your blood more, Calvin Ridley or George Pickens?
uh, I think Pickens. Yeah, I think it's Pickens. Yeah. Maybe it definitely has also something to do with Kenny Pickett too. I mean, he didn't help the situation, so. But yeah, Pickens, young kid, not blocking too, not really showing some effort. That just shows that it could have been better if it's like if he he could have controlled that as well. So yeah,
I get what you're saying.
yeah,
At first I thought it maybe would have been Calvin Ridley because Calvin Ridley is like everybody else around him is succeeding. He's getting the targets. He's
yeah,
just not capitalizing. But your 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 reasoning there with Pickens definitely makes a ton of sense. Um, Shout out to those that played Rashid Shaheed
yes, sir.
because he got it done. I know I played him. Tyreek Hill, were able to bounce back from a high ankle sprain like 2 weeks. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, man,
Um,
he really wants that 2K.
Seriously. Um, Garrett Wilson having a wide receiver 2 day with a quarterback that's not named Zach Wilson this year. That's pretty good.
Mhm.
Um, Romeo Dobbs, nice day by him. Darius Slayton, KJ Osborne. So good wide receiver week all in all. But there are some Jags here and some high named ones, such as the aforementioned Cooper Kupp, Terry McLaurin, Stephon Diggs,
Rasheed
Drake
Rice
London,
too.
Rasheed Rice. I didn't even. I mean, I guess you could throw all the Kansas City Chiefs on there.
Yep, yep.
And in my wide receiver start of the week, DJ Moore, who did start off the game. I think the game had just started, and I look and I see him on the sideline with like a wrap on his ankle and
Oh no.
like not in the game. And then they're like, "Yeah, he's questionable with an ankle injury." And I was like, "Oh, he's done for the day." And then he ends up coming back into the game. But all in all, he didn't do much there. Um, Anything else at the wide receiver position, Greg? Anybody else that let you down this week?
Uh, no, I mean, think covered Drake London is tough. Uh Stephon Diggs, I mean, we probably mentioned him, but yeah, yeah,
Greg, you have Puka Nakua in our dynasty league.
I did.
You
I do.
did.
I
You
do. I
do.
do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I do.
uh, if somebody offered you Cooper Cup for Puka Nakua straight up, I'm assuming you'd say no, right?
Yeah, yeah, I think no. Yeah. Dynasty especially, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's crazy how far we've come here.
I know. I know.
Wild. Um, Moving on to the tight end position, the number one tight end on the week, George Kittle, 10 targets, 7 receptions, 126 receiving yards, 19.6 PPR points. Pretty sure at one point at halftime he was already the tight end 8. Craig, your thoughts on the performance here by George Kittle?
Yeah, glad he was able to put up a good week. Hope closing out the season in a good way. It's definitely been up and down for him, but found some consistency towards the end of the season as well. Got Washington next week, so that's a really good matchup. I feel like gonna have an angry 49ers team against the Washington defense, so they should all eat next week.
Yeah, and that's we got the revenge game narrative for Kyle Shanahan as
Oh
well,
yeah, oh
former
yeah.
Washington offensive coordinator. Although Dan Snyder is no longer there, so I wonder if he still hates them. But George Kittle absolutely balling. Um, was able to help advance me last night
Nice.
in a dynasty league because it was not looking good until he was able to help me out there. Between him and Ayuk and Dre Greenlaw and Patrick Queen, so it was nice to have that quartet of players help advance me. But George Kittle, yeah, like you said, just absolutely balling. I'm genuinely really curious, right? Because I don't know why my brain was going in this direction last night, but people talk about Brock Purdy and him being a system quarterback and all these things and the players he gets to play with, which Brock Purdy gets to play with some really good football players, right? Like some really good ones. And then just made me think like, George Kittle's been a captain. Like, you get the gold star on your chest. That means you've been a captain for like 5 years. And I was like, George Kittle's been a captain for 5 years. Like, he's kind of old. Plus his injuries, he's kind of getting up there in age. So I was just wondering what this offense would look like without George Kittle.
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard of they've had a backup for a while. I feel like the same guy,
Yeah,
but
they've Charlie
yeah,
Warner and
yeah. But also George Kittle's like probably the best blocking tight end in the league, so that is gonna be impactful for them, especially their run game. Obviously, they rely heavily on it as well, so he's really impactful for them. It's a good point. Yeah,
Yeah, I just also wonder, like, again, he's dealt with some injuries. So, like, what's the longevity going to look like for him? Like, you could be like, oh, well, maybe he'll play. Maybe he won't make the impact he does as a receiver, but he could still make that impact as like a blocker. Um, but it makes you wonder, like, with all those injuries, will he want to be able to do that? So, just curious, just one of those things I started thinking about was we
Mm-hmm.
near the end of the season. But the tight end 2 on the week, Chigoza Mokwonkwo, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 63 receiving yards. That's a lot of sixes. 1 touchdown on the through the air, 18.3 PPR points on the day. Greg, what do you make of this performance by our almost every week streamer who almost never really comes through, but decides to finish as a top 2 tight end this week?
Yeah, definitely wouldn't get you 0, but definitely wouldn't get you 10. And now we're finally here, got over that double-digit mark for the first time. So yeah, those that were able to stream them, probably weren't expecting this. They were just probably expecting like a safe outing, and they got a nice little Christmas bonus. So that's good for the people out there for sure. Chigo, I feel like if he gets more opportunity, he definitely can put up more numbers too.
Yeah, definitely would like to see him put up, some more games like this because he is a very athletic tight end,
Yeah,
a talented one, and we kind of just would like to see him utilized more
yeah, yeah,
so we could have another tight end in the fantasy landscape because we don't
yeah.
have enough. But yeah, I mean, hopefully that continues going forward. The tight end 3 on the week, Evan Ingram, 15 targets, 10 receptions, 95 receiving yards. His streak of scoring touchdowns is over. Did lose a fumble, 17 and a half PPR points on the day. Greg, your thoughts on the performance here by Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram, great job for him. Jacksonville Evan Ingram has been excellent for as far as fantasy. Definitely you knew the moment he was moved on from the Giants, he was going to open up his career. Always a very talented tight end coming out of Ole Miss. So yeah, definitely a good season from him.
Yeah, most definitely a good performance, good season here by Evan Ingram. He is one of Trevor Lawrence's most entrusted weapons. So his role here is kind of locked and loaded. I mean, he had
Yeah.
124 targets through 15 games thus far, 98 receptions. Both of those would be career highs. 824 receiving yards. That's also a career high. So yeah, just great all around year here by
Hmm.
Evan Ingram. So love to see that. Rounding out these top 12s, tight end 4 on the week. Surprise, surprise, no surprise here. That would be David Njoku. The tight end 5 would be Juwan Johnson. 6, Cole Kmet. 7, Logan Thomas. 8, Dallas Goddard. Also tied for 8, Dalton Schultz. The tight end 10, Greg, can you say that name? Because I can't say it.
Cup it's.
And the tight end 11, Lucas Kroll. And then the tight end 12, tied for the tight end 12, Kylan Granson and Gerald Everett. Look at that.
Hmm.
Greg, any of these top 12 tight end performances stuck out to you?
Yeah, I mean, I know David Njoku managers are, praying to Joe Flacco, like thanking him every day at this point because he really, David Njoku was putting up solid numbers, but he really into that upper echelon of tight ends when Joe Flacco it was inserted. So that's really good to see. Dallas Goedert, glad that he's getting healthier, putting up some better weeks now, putting up a good week. And yeah, Gerald Everett too for sure. 3 straight weeks with at least 8 targets. So, you know, he's getting some getting some more usage out there.
Yeah, man. I mean, Gerald Everett, that's cool. No, I'm just trolling, obviously. Cole Kmet though did have 100 receiving yards. Like I think all of that happened in like the first half
Yeah, because he exited the game, right?
with like
Yeah.
a knee injury. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah, pretty wild stuff.
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson, I'm actually really mad that I was not on this one. Like really mad. Because after the game, that game happened so early, right? It was like Thursday. And like after that game, I was just like, I should have been on over Juwan Johnson. Like we've been
Hmm.
targeting the Rams all year. And like I don't
True.
even think I brought him up during the Thursday night preview. So my apologies to those that had him and didn't hear him and thus didn't play him. But if you played him, love that for you. Yeah, Kylan Granson, shows up like 3 times a year.
Yep.
But it literally doesn't make sense to me. Like the whole Kylan Granson thing. Like it literally does not make any sense. Like what is the deciding factor about like when he plays?
Yeah, I don't know. They stopped Morley Cox on the roster too, I think, right? Or so.
Yeah, and apparently they have
Yeah.
oh no, they have this Will Mallory guy
Yeah,
as
I
well.
mean, Darren
Scored
Smythe being
8.7
doing all
PPR
right too
points.
is crazy.
You said who?
Darren Smythe being in a decent
Oh
spot too.
yeah. After
Out
like
of nowhere.
I mean, he runs a ton of routes. He's always on the field. They just don't throw him the ball. So it's like the K. Dotton Award.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right, but we got to talk about some. I guess some honorable mentions. I throw out Tucker Kraft.
yeah. I
Been
mean, I
solid.
think they didn't double digits this week was good for sure.
Yeah, because there were some guys that did not do that, and we'll talk
Nope.
about those guys in a second. But the touchdown or not tight end of the week this week, Greg. I can't say the name of the person who won it.
Wow. That's crazy. Dang.
Um,
Kyle Pitts, man. Kyle Pitts. Third touchdown of the year. So that's what's up. Hey, Arthur Smith he needs to keep his job. Every week that he doesn't do it, it seems like maybe he just like wants people to make him think he's a good coach. Like he saved the offense by like giving the people the ball after a bad week of not doing it. So I don't know. It's crazy.
Yeah, man. Kyle Pitts comes up here with four targets, 3 receptions, 49 receiving yards, and a touchdown, 13.9 PPR points. And just like last week's touchdown or not tight end of the week, and Jon Johnson, the Atlanta tight end was probably started. I know I started him, so that touchdown really helped me out.
Oh,
Right, so
absolutely.
really appreciate it, Pitts, pile kits. But now we got to talk about the not so good. And boy, there were a lot of tight ends that let you down. Hey, at least if you had Travis Kelce and your opponent had Sam Laporta, like nobody really had an advantage.
That's true. I
You
think,
know,
especially for championship week or semifinal week, I'm sure it was a lot of Sam Laporta, a lot of Travis Kelce's.
a lot of Trey McBrides,
Yeah, a lot of Trey McBride, some TJ
a lot of
Hockensons here and
Isaiah
there.
Likely's,
Yeah.
TJ Hawkinson.
Yep.
So TJ Hawk did
Likely's.
get hurt.
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson. Maybe
Yeah.
somebody was like trying to get not cute, but was like, ooh, Darren Waller, I got you.
Yeah.
Picked you up
Yeah.
off waivers. Dalton Kincaid. Although
Yeah.
I did say not to play Dalton Kincaid. I was saying I'm not playing Dalton Kincaid, but I said a lot of things this week, and some of them came true, some of them didn't. But anyway, yeah, it was just all in all not a great week from the tight end position.
Yeah, man. Definitely not. Definitely for semifinal week, it's not the time for this. So it happened. So especially Trey McBride too. Yeah, that's tough.
But honestly, if tight end week was like this every week, where like the same 5 guys didn't finish in the top 5, I feel like I'd be okay. I feel
I
like
mean,
this
makes it exciting, I guess.
it makes it easier for me to just punt tight end.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think this would be the last year someone's gonna try to do that first round tight end business. It's over for that.
It's done.
Yeah, it's
But
done.
like I think the real question is like where's TJ Hawkinson getting drafted? Where's the Sam Laporta getting
Definitely
drafted?
the most interesting like next season preview, like who's gonna be top 5 for going into next year. And I think about that more than any other position for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Right? So like Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, like those two guys are going to be going like the top 5, top 6 of tight ends that like nobody was drafting this year.
Yeah. No, it's the usual Kelce, Kittle, Andrews. That's not I feel like we've had that for the last maybe 4 years. Next year it's not gonna be the case.
Yeah, so I'm really curious to see how that plays out. Um, should be a fun thing to prognosticate over. But moving on to the injuries, Kansas City running back Isaiah Pacheco suffered a concussion in Week 16, is questionable for Week 17. Minnesota tight end T.J. Hawkinson suffered a knee injury and was quickly ruled out. So this could, have an impact on his recovery going into the offseason, depending on how major it is. Minnesota wide receiver Jordan Addison, he's expected to be day to day with an ankle injury. Jacksonville quarterback Trevor Lawrence is questionable for Week 17 after leaving the game Week 16 with a shoulder. Cortland Sutton left Sunday's game and did not return with a concussion. He was quickly ruled out. Miami wide receiver Jalen Waddle suffered an injury. That is not the that's
did
not
you
the
see the
news.
sleeper alert? Sleeper
No.
put out just like, oh, Jalen Waddle into the medical tent, and then parentheses again, like they even sleepers done, man. Even the news outlets are done, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, he suffered an injury. That's not the news here. The news is what the injury type that he suffered, and it was an ankle, and he did not return from that injury. So, um, curious to see what his status looks like for Week 17. Cole Kmet, Chicago tight end, left Sunday's game, did not return with a knee injury. Oh, he did leave the game twice though.
No, he
Jalen
came
Waddle.
back.
Yeah,
That's what I
yeah.
said
That's why it was
again.
again,
Yeah.
because it wasn't like again like this week from last week. It was like
No.
again because he got poked in the eye, had to go into the tent, came back, and then left to go with the ankle injury. Yeah. DJ Moore, he was in Chicago wide receiver. DJ Moore, he was in and out of the lineup on Sunday with an ankle injury. And then last but not least, but San Francisco quarterback Brock Purdy suffered a stinger during Monday night's game. He could have returned to the game, but with the game being out of hand the way it was and Sam Darnold leading a touchdown drive, it did not he did not return there. So moving on to waivers, Greg, what are we looking at the quarterback position for those that have been streaming quarterbacks and have made it this far, or, maybe have Brock Purdy and they're concerned. I mean, he's playing Washington, so maybe you shouldn't be concerned unless he's not healthy. But
Yeah.
what are we looking at the quarterback position this week?
Yeah, this week's gotta reach really deep in the bag. So for sure, I'm gonna start with, Nick Mullins, Joe Flacco. I think those two guys have, Nick Mullins has probably the best matchup going into next week. Got Green Bay. I know Green Bay's been really attacked the last couple weeks. He's 13% rostered. Joe Flacco is of the case that he's, just been playing really well. His matchups probably is going to be very tough. But the way this offense is playing, they should be able to give you. I think be able to give you a top, 15 week at the minimum. And then for two quarterback leagues, or just, if you have no other options, Mason Rudolph and 1% versus Seattle next week. If Kenny Pickett can't go, and I mean he's been probably the best Steelers quarterback this season with just that one game, how he looked in that performance. And then Bryce Young, come on for a good week last week. They got Jacksonville next week. Jacksonville's also been a team that has been horrible passing defense wise over the last couple of weeks. So he's 12% rostered. So not a lot of options, but those are the ones I think that, won't really, crush your day.
Uh, Mason Rudolph adding to another list of quarterbacks this year who have scored more fantasy points in a game than Kenny Pickett has in a single game than Kenny Pickett has scored in a single game of his entire career. So
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like,
I don't know. Is it that crazy, or maybe Kenny Pickett's not good?
no, he's not. He's not good. No.
What about the running back position this week, Greg? What are we looking at?
Yeah, Zamir White's got to be on that top of the list, 30% rostered. Mentioned him last week, especially if Josh Jacobs going to go. Again, wasn't able to go, so you got to keep monitoring that situation if you're a Josh Jacobs manager. And hopefully, Zamir White's only 30% rostered. He's still heavily out there, so go get him, especially if you're playing against Josh Jacobs or anything where to play defense. You got to have Zamir White on your roster just in case. Khalil Herbert, 45% rostered. If Dante Foreman can't go next week, that definitely clears up the situation. Running back room for him seems like he'll be the lead over Roshan Johnson. If it's just those two, if Dante Foreman comes back, it definitely brings down his performance. But you want to have him rostered as well, just for the fact that any injuries or personal matter that goes on for next week. And then Chris Rodriguez, I know he exited that game with the injury at 3% rostered, but if he's able to come back for next week, I think he's had a really good week against against the Jets. Should bounce back and hopefully continue to give a solid week at the end of the season, depending on his injury.
Nice, like that one there. Both of those really. What about the running or the wide receiver position? What do we got there?
Yeah, only I think Rashid Shaheed, he's 44% rostered. Probably the only guy I'm looking at as far as maybe can give you something next week. He definitely always has that big play activity. Uh, Chris Olave is back and healthy, and he's still able to put out a good output, so that's definitely a good sign. And then the last two names for real deeper leagues, Brandon Johnson, he's literally out there in every league. Cortland Sutton did get injured in that game against the Patriots, so if Cortland Sutton's not able to go, Brandon Johnson could have some opportunity. And also KJ Osborne, with Jordan Addison going down, he can also open up some opportunity for him. He's 17% rostered for some targets there.
Always fun at wide receiver, going through waivers. What about the tight end position this week, Greg?
Tight end got three names: Chigo, Okonkwo, probably be possible streaming tight end of the week again coming up this week. 32% rostered, and then Tucker Craft, 19% rostered, and Gerald Everett, 42% rostered. I think Tucker Craft out of these three names probably has the most upside, and then Gerald Everett and Chigo could probably give you a safe floor right now.
No, definitely agree with those. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, championship week coming up. Uh, Greg and I still have to determine when we are going to do our live show, but it will be either tomorrow or Thursday. But I'll post something on the at FF Diagnostics Twitter account. You'll probably also see it on my Twitter account as well at the real Jon J _ FF. Post that there so you guys have an idea of when it will be coming. That show, but just be on the lookout for that. Hopefully we if you guys have made it this far, we'll help you get into the fantasy championship, or win the fantasy championship, or maybe you're playing in week 18 and you still have to get to a fantasy championship, or even if you're just not, you're just playing for fun, right? Like we say, like always pay attention. Even if you got bounced, just pay attention, keep listening to this podcast. You're going through your process and just understanding who the guys are that are maybe making an impact down the stretch here, right? So I think that's important, and it's important to understand that, because when you know George Pickens is going at the top of drafts, you'll want to understand it's because he probably had back-to-back 200-yard games in week 16, week 17. So, anyways, y'all, hope you guys had a Merry Christmas, and we will talk to y'all later this week. Have a good one, everybody, and we are out of here. Peace.
Yeah.